I've struggled a lot with loneliness lately, and I'm not lonely all the time because honestly, most of the time, I'm pretty content with just me. But every now and then, it kind of hits me a little bit harder, and I've been thinking about it a lot more lately, especially when it comes to friendships. The friendships I used to have that just aren't quite the same anymore. The friendships I really tried to make work, but for some reason they just never quite clicked. And the friendships I know that I probably need to walk away from, but I just haven't yet. And I'm not sure if I'm the only one who does this or not, but I often imagine these imaginary friendships that I wished I had, and I grieve that they don't exist too. So while I get a few things done around the house today, I just want to chit chat a little bit about that with y'all. I don't feel lonely constantly. Most days, I'm actually pretty content just being at home, doing my own thing. I'm pretty busy a lot, doing things around the house, so it's not something that really comes to mind often, but I have struggled with it a lot more here lately over the last several months. And sometimes there's just, an evening or maybe an event where I'm around other people or just moments of self reflection where it really does hit me a lot harder. And the other day, when I was closing out my video and I was talking about the keepsake paw prints that I had for Reese and Sammy, and you guys seen me, they did not turn out the way I wanted to. I was very, very emotional about that. And I will say, that evening, I was also just in one of those headspaces where I was really thinking about the friendships that I had had and the struggle I had had with trying to make or grow friendships that they just really didn't click. So I was already kind of emotional when making that, and I think that just kind of added to my headspace a lot. I don't really have friends, and I guess I haven't much in my adulthood. I've had people that we chat throughout the day, or every other day, or a couple times a week or something, and we'll touch base with each other, send each other things like on Facebook Messenger, through TikTok. But I don't really have anybody that, I just go and hang out with and spend the day with or have a girls' day. And sometimes that can hit a lot harder. And I know for a fact I am not the only person who deals with that. I feel like we all just so often crave that intimate connection with somebody, not in a relationship level, but in a friendship level. And so many of us just do not have that. And I feel like even if we just had one or two people, that we could go and hang out with and do these things with, even if it was just once a week or every couple of weeks, I think that would be such a great help for our mental state. And I have friendships that I used to have that just aren't part of my life anymore. I don't think really any of them ended badly. Some of them ended because I didn't necessarily agree with the choices they were making over a longer period of time, and some of them just naturally faded away, and some are still technically there, but they're still just not really the same relationship that they used to be anymore. And that comes with a really weird type of grief that comes with losing somebody who isn't actually gone. They're just not who they used to be in your life anymore. And sometimes you don't know whether you're supposed to grieve it because technically nobody passed away and there wasn't necessarily some huge falling out. But one day you just kind of realize, oh, we're not really friends like we used to be anymore. We don't talk, we don't check in. I've also had those that I have tried to make a friendship with, and there's people that I have genuinely tried to become friends with and relate to and talk to. But you can like somebody and have things in common or make an effort in trying to build the friendship, but for some reason it just still does not click. And sometimes that can be hard because you can be wondering, what's wrong with me? Why don't they like me? Why don't they want to have a conversation with me? Or maybe even this person claims they want a relationship with me, for whatever reason. We're close, maybe they're a distant relative or their family that you've married into or something. But for whatever reason, that connection just doesn't click, and that close friendship that you want just doesn't happen. And that doesn't mean that anything's wrong with either person. Sometimes nobody did anything wrong. Doesn't mean that there's a flaw with either person. Sometimes people just don't connect. And I think sometimes that can be really hard to accept, especially if it is somebody you see often or have to make conversations with, or maybe they're a coworker or they're at family gatherings, and that's okay. Sometimes we can be kind and loving and respectful to people without having to develop that strong relationship with them and still treat them with respect, even if it feels like for whatever reason they have rejected your friendship. So calm. Put pillows up there. Then there are friendships that you know you need to leave. These are friendships where deep down they're either not healthy or they're just not fulfilling anymore. And you probably need to step away, but actually doing that is a completely another ballgame. Sometimes you're holding on to the hope of what the friendship could be rather than what it actually is or what it used to be, and not living in the reality of what it has become. And one thing I have really, really learned lately is that loneliness can make you hold on to relationships that you otherwise would probably have already chose to release. So years ago, I went through a canning phase where I was trying to can stuff. Didn't really know much of what I was doing. And I think I ate one thing on this shelf. I did have one that, so you're supposed to keep the lids unscrewed. So that way if something does happen, it will pop off if it starts growing bacteria. And I did that. And I did have one probably about a year later that popped. None of the other ones did. And I think I ate one muffin that I canned. And I have always been too scared to eat anything else. I'm terrified of getting sick. So now I basically just keep this for decoration, but I need to clean it up because it is super dusty in here. I don't get over here and dust very often, and I need to. Really, I could just take those off and leave them to the side. See, this says 06/21/2022, so they're 4 years old. See, that one went bad. So this one gets thrown away, and I'm very glad that my dogs did not find this and get into this. Yep, that one went bad too. That is why even though I'm a beginner, and if you're a beginner and you do this, or even if you are advanced, please do not screw your lids on, because if you screw them on tight, then they can't pop up, and then you don't know if they went bad. There are other ways to check if they went bad, but I'm not the person to be getting that advice from. So if canning is something you do or something you want to look into, I would definitely look into somebody that has way more experience. So y'all know I have been such a hater of my hair color since I got it done a couple weeks ago. But I do have to say, in this video, I am loving the color of my hair. I think I've really worked on the bleach damage. The new conditioner and hair mask and serum I've been using have worked wonders just in the last few times that I have used it. And I think since some of that damage is finally being taken care of, I'm really liking the hair. I will say in person, it still has more of a golden brassy tone, and I do not like that, but for the most part, I am starting to like my hair just a little bit better. But anyways, back to our little chat. So I think friendships that I need to walk away from have been really something I have struggled with over the last couple years. And I think most of us usually do, for whatever reason. Maybe it's not that the person treats you bad, but maybe they just don't have the characteristic traits you would look for in a friend. And I don't know if I'm the only one who does this, or if it's just the fact that I have a super wild imagination. My mind is always running and creating imaginary worlds and all kind of stuff. And one thing I tend to do a lot is imagine up these friendships that I wish I had that don't really exist. You know, just that person that I can call randomly, or I can have like to go shopping with, or to have a girls' weekend or something with. And I tend to imagine all these different scenarios of just having those couple of people in your corner, that you're with all the time and that you click so well. And that can be a weird grief because it's not really a relationship that truly ever existed, but it's something that you yearn for, and it's kind of hard to explain it to somebody else. This thing is so dirty and dusty. It has not been used in years, but I finally have a spray can I can put in here. So I'm really, really hoping I can clean this up, get some batteries in it, and it will work. I'm actually more introverted in person than people probably assume online. And I'm not really necessarily the person who's just going to walk into a room and immediately make like 10 friends. I do have moments where I'm very outgoing and talkative, but it tends to be more in a crowd where maybe I know more people there. But once I am really comfortable with somebody, and I really feel like I know you, then I'm probably not going to shut up. So sometimes meeting people is difficult because there's that initial wall to break through. I feel like especially so for people who are introverted or shy. And I know there are probably a lot of people like that who aren't necessarily antisocial. They don't want to not go out and talk to somebody. They're just slower to connect, and sometimes it can be awkward and you don't know what to say or how to bring about things. So I think sometimes there are more people like me who want to be more outgoing, who want to talk more, but sometimes you just don't know what to say or how to approach somebody. And I know for me, being a stay-at-home homemaker adds a whole nother level to that, because where somebody else might go out and they have the opportunity to talk to coworkers, or if they work in the public, they're talking to people all day, but I'm home alone by myself except for the dogs majority of the day. So I feel like that adds a whole nother layer to it. And before I came back on YouTube, it was probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, probably about 3 or 4 maybe. And I remember thinking maybe I should get a part-time job. And most of the reason for that is because I crave the social interaction with people. I have people that I can talk to on the phone at home for, a couple hours at a time, but it's still just not the same as that in-person connection with somebody. And I'm like, maybe I should just get out the house and I'm around people. Maybe I will feel less isolated. And then, y'all, I ended up taking a cleaning job at my church, which was the exact opposite of what I wanted, because I was alone the entire time cleaning. Nobody else was with me. So technically I had a job, but I didn't necessarily give me the social connection I was craving. And it made me realize that being around people and actually connecting with people are two completely different things. Ethan did eventually just end up going up there and sitting with me while I was there. And he couldn't do anything because he was injured, but he would just sit with me so I would have somebody there, because I had a scary incident happen at the church where I had 2 people try to break in on me, and I'm pretty sure the man had been watching me, because my church has 2 separate buildings and I was parked in between the buildings, so there is no reason that he should have known which building I was in, because he came. That was the first building he came to, and he was very, very adamant. I could hear him talking outside that he knew I was in there. So I'm pretty sure that he had been watching me at some point. So after that incident, I I never felt okay enough to be up there by myself. So if my husband couldn't come with me, then a friend of mine from church would come up there with me and hang out with me. But anyways, coming back to YouTube has given me something I didn't really expect. And I know technically I'm just talking to a camera, but there are actual people on the other side of the screen, and the comments, the conversations, people checking in and just telling me about their own lives. This community has made me feel so loved. And honestly, I really feel like this community has gotten me through a whole lot over the last several months. There have been moments where I felt lonely, and then I'd get on YouTube and see someone has commented, or where someone was excited about a video I posted. And it just reminds me that I'm not alone. And I'm genuinely so grateful for that. I just remembered that I have a new outfit that I wanted to show y'all. And I'm absolutely obsessed with this. So this top is a see-through, but I do have a nude colored top underneath it. And then it's got the fringe, and I love it because I can go like that. But this is from Eloquii. It was on clearance when I bought it, so I'll try to leave a link in the description in case y'all want to check this out. But I think this is my favorite outfit in my closet right now. I do have one more dress I ordered, and I did not realize that this was basically a sister brand, a line off of Eloquii that I was ordering from. So I went up a size from my original size, and it ended up being a tad too big. So I sent it back. I'm waiting on the exchange to get to me, but it's not supposed to be here till like the 24th. But I thought I would show y'all this one because I am obsessed with this. And I know as a child of the Lord, we have the Holy Spirit, who is our comforter and our constant companion. But we were also designed to crave human companionship. So I've come up with a few practical suggestions that may help some of us who deal with loneliness. Number 1, stop treating loneliness like a personal failure. Just because you're feeling lonely does not mean something's wrong with you, or you're unlikable, or that you're failing in life. And start putting yourself where repeated interactions can actually happen. And this is a big one because it's hard to make friends from just one random interaction. So if you put yourself in places that give friendships a chance to naturally develop, like church groups or Bible studies, volunteering, maybe you take a class or you're in a book club, maybe you join a crafting group or some sort of community event, then being in these same places over and over and over helps to actually give friendships a chance to develop naturally. And don't wait for an instant best friend. Sometimes I think we're looking for the immediate, oh my gosh, this is my person. But real friendships usually start much smaller than that. So just, hey, do you want to grab a cup of coffee? Or maybe, do you want to go shopping with me? That can actually give something a chance to grow. And don't be afraid to make the first move. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, especially if you're introverted, but somebody has to be the one to initiate. And if they don't reciprocate, that's okay. You haven't embarrassed yourself. You just learned something. And don't chase relationships that constantly make you feel unwanted. Wanting a connection doesn't mean you have to accept just crumbs of what somebody has to offer. I don't think the answer to loneliness is necessarily finding the one person who suddenly fills all these giant-sized friendship holes in your life, but I think sometimes it's about allowing yourself to build little connections and being willing to put yourself out there so something can grow. And while you're at it, just appreciate the people who are in your life that already bring that little piece of love to it. And if you're watching this and you've been feeling this way too, I just want you to know you're definitely not the only one, because clearly we're all out here just trying to figure out this friendship thing as adults.